opening. The pen trembles in my hand. Yellowed paper, stained with old tears. 47 years writing the same letter. 47 years without the courage to send it. Dear David, forgive me for not being the father you deserved. My name is Thomas Williams. I'm 82 years old, and this is the story of how the war stole everything from me, including the chance to be a father. Who I was. My name is Thomas Williams, but everyone called me Tommy. I was born in 1942 in New Orleans, Louisiana. My father was a jazz musician, my mother a seamstress. I grew up hearing the trumpet and the sound of the sewing machine, sounds that still calm me when the memories get too heavy. At 20, I married Sarah, beautiful, strong, with a smile that lit up dark rooms. We married in June 1962, and in March 1963, she gave me the best news in the world. We were going to have a baby. David was born in November. I was 21 years old, holding my son for the first time, and I promised, I'm going to be the best father in the world. I'll always be here for you. It was the first promise I broke. In January 1964, I received my draft notice. Vietnam was escalating. They needed young black men to fight a war on the other side of the world. Sarah cried for 3 straight days. I held David, that tiny 2-month-old baby, and felt something break inside me. But I had no choice. It was that or prison. Vietnam, the green hell. I arrived in Vietnam in April 1964. The heat was suffocating. The humidity entered your lungs like water. But nothing prepared me for what was to come. I was assigned to jungle patrols, entire days marching in the heat, carrying 120 pounds of equipment, never knowing if your next step would be your last. The jungle hid everything: traps, snipers, landmines. I lost my first friend in the 3rd week, Johnny Martinez, from San Antonio. He stepped on a mine. I was 15 feet behind him. The noise, the blood, the screams, they never leave your head. But the worst part wasn't the combat. It was the waiting. Hours, days in the trenches, listening to the jungle, knowing that death was there, watching, waiting for the right moment. I had a photo of Sarah and David in my pocket. Every night, in the darkness of the jungle, I would take out that photo and whisper, I'm coming back to you, I promise. Another broken promise. The ambush. It was August 1965. We were on routine patrol near Da Nang. 12 men, infernal heat, everyone wanting to get back to base. The ambush came out of nowhere. Shots from all sides, trees exploding, screams in Vietnamese. My sergeant fell beside me, half his face blown off. I started shooting everywhere without thinking, pure survival instinct. And then I felt it. Pain like I'd never felt before. A bullet went through my thigh, another hit my shoulder. I fell in the mud, bleeding, certain I was going to die there in a country I couldn't even find on a map. A helicopter rescued us. Of the 12 men, 6 died. 3 were mutilated forever. I was lucky. I survived with 2 bullets and a shattered soul. I spent 3 months in the military hospital in Saigon. 3 months staring at the ceiling, hearing men scream at night, smelling burnt flesh and disinfectant. Sarah sent me letters, 15 in all. She talked about David, about how he was growing, his first steps, his first words. Daddy was one of them. I wasn't there to hear it. Each letter destroyed me a little more. The return, I came home in December 1965, 2 years after leaving. David was 2 years old and didn't know me. When I walked through the door, He looked at me, this uniformed stranger, and ran behind his mother, frightened. "It's okay, baby," Sarah said, kneeling. "It's your daddy. Remember Mommy showed you the pictures? But pictures aren't men. Pictures don't wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Pictures don't shake at the sound of fireworks. Pictures don't drink to forget. I tried to be a father. I swear I tried. But every time David ran around laughing, I saw Johnny Martinez exploding. When he cried, I heard the screams of the wounded. When Sarah touched me, I jumped, ready to fight. I wasn't home. My body was, but my mind was still in that jungle, still shooting, still dying. I started drinking. First a few beers to sleep, then whiskey to wake up, then just to exist. Sarah endured it for 3 years. 3 years trying to save a man who didn't want to be saved. 3 years protecting David from a father who had become a shadow. The departure. It was one night in March 1969. David was 5 years old. I had drunk too much, as always. He left a toy on the floor. I tripped, fell, and for the first time I raised my hand to him. I didn't hit him. Sarah stepped in front, but the gesture was enough. I saw terror in my son's eyes, terror of me, of his own father. Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes and said quietly, "Tomorrow morning, I'm taking David to my mother's house. When I come back, I want you gone." "Sarah, please." "No, Tommy, not anymore. I won't let our son grow up afraid. I won't let him become this." She pointed to the empty bottle. "You chose alcohol. You chose the war. Now you need to choose to live or die. But you won't do it near our son." She left that morning. David looked back once from the car window. He just looked. Didn't wave, didn't cry. Just looked, as if memorizing the face of a stranger. I stood on the porch, watching the car disappear, and collapsed. I cried like I hadn't cried since the hospital. I cried for the dead men, for the war, for Sarah, for David. But mostly, I cried for myself, for the man I was and would never be again. The lost years. I spent the next 20 years drifting. I worked in factories, construction, anywhere that would accept me. I moved cities 7 times, always running, always carrying the war on my back. Sarah remarried in 1975. I heard through an acquaintance, a good man, a teacher, who raised David as his son. I was happy for her and destroyed for myself. I tried to see David a few times. At 8, at 12, at 15, but I always gave up at the last minute. What would I say? Sorry for being a drunk? Sorry for preferring the bottle to you? The words seemed empty, insufficient. I stopped drinking in 1982. I was 40 years old, my liver almost dead, alone in a dirty apartment. I looked in the mirror and saw a ghost. I decided, either I change or I die. I sought help. Veterans Anonymous, therapy, support groups. Slowly, very slowly, I began to rebuild something resembling a life. I got a stable job as a janitor at a school. I worked at night, when the children weren't there. I didn't trust myself around them. I was afraid they would see the monster I thought I was. But children are smart. Sometimes there would be an event at night, and they would see me. And you know what they did. They smiled, they waved, they called me Mr. Tommy. That killed me in a different way. It showed me what I could have had, what I threw away. The letter. I started writing letters to David in 1978. He was 15 years old. I would write, tear it up, write again, tear it up again. How do you explain to a son that war stole your ability to love? How do you say that every time you tried to hug him, you saw blood on your hands? I wrote hundreds of letters over the years. I kept them all, never sent any. Dear David, you're in school now. Dear David, today would be your 18th birthday. Dear David, I heard you got into college. Dear David, your mother told me you're getting married. Each letter an attempt to be the father I should have been. Each letter an apology that would never arrive. In 2001, Sarah called me. She had gotten my number with great effort. Her voice, older but still familiar, said, "Tommy, David had a son. You're a grandfather." Grandfather. The word hit me like a bullet. Does he know about me? I asked. Silence. Then, he knows he had a father who went to war and couldn't fully come back. He doesn't hate you, Tommy, but he doesn't know you either. Is he okay? He is. He's a good man, better than both of us. She paused. Maybe you should try to talk to him before it's too late. But I didn't call, because what did I have to offer? A broken old man, full of regrets? The reunion. It was only in 2019 that I finally found the courage. David was 56 years old. I was 82, almost an entire lifetime lost. Sarah had passed away in 2017. At the funeral, I stayed in the back. I saw David, now gray-haired, cry for his mother. I saw his children, my grandchildren I never met, console him. I left before the end. I didn't deserve to be there, but something changed that day. I realized time was running out. If I didn't speak now, I never would. I wrote one last letter, different from the others, honest, raw, no excuses. I told him everything: Vietnam, the drinking, the fear, the shame. I told him I never stopped thinking about him, that every day was a new regret, that the war stole my ability to be human, but never stole my love for him, even though I could never show it. I don't expect forgiveness, I wrote. I don't deserve it. But you need to know, my greatest failure wasn't surviving the war. It was not being able to be your father. I sent the letter in June 2019, an address I got with great effort. 3 months later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Silence. Heavy breathing. Then, is this Tommy Williams? My heart stopped. I knew that voice, not from having heard it, but because it was my voice, decades younger. David? Yes. Long pause. I got your letter. I couldn't speak. Tears ran down my face. I don't know what to say, he continued. I spent my whole life angry at you, at the man who abandoned me. But your letter, his voice broke. Your letter showed me you didn't abandon me out of malice. You were broken. I'm sorry, was all I could say. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know. I heard him cry, too. And I don't know if I can forgive completely. It's been too many years, but I'd like to try to get to know you before it's too late. The final days. We met at a coffee shop in October 2019. Two strangers who were father and son. He came with his wife and 2 children, my grandchildren. Teenagers, curious, polite. We talked for hours. He told me about his life. History teacher, specialized in the Vietnam War. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent years studying the war, trying to understand you, he said. Interviewing veterans, reading reports, studying PTSD, trying to find my father in books since I couldn't find him in person. That destroyed and rebuilt me at the same time. We saw each other 3 more times before the pandemic. It wasn't a traditional father-son relationship. We were too late for that. But it was something, a connection, a late beginning. He showed me childhood photos. Sarah had kept them all. Birthdays, graduations, wedding, an entire life I missed. She always said you weren't bad, David told me, just wounded. She never let me completely hate you. Sarah, saving me even after death. My grandchildren called me Grandpa Tommy. Hearing that was sweet and bitter. Sweet for the connection, bitter for the lost time. I taught the oldest how to play chess, something my father taught me. I saw my grandson smile when he beat me, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt there might be redemption. Final reflection. I'm lying in bed now. Hospital, lung cancer, a gift from the war and cigarettes. The doctors give me a few months. David comes to visit me every week. He brings the grandkids sometimes. We talk about everything and nothing. Has he forgiven me? I don't know. But he's here, and that's more than I deserve. Yesterday he brought me something, an old shoebox. Mom kept this for you, he said. She asked me to give it to you when I thought it was time. Inside, all the letters I sent to Sarah during the war, worn, reread 1,000 times. And a letter from her, never sent, written in 1969. Dear Tommy, I know you're suffering. I know the war took part of you, but you need to understand, David needs a father, not a soldier. He needs you to choose to be present, to fight for your family with the same courage you fought in that jungle. I'm not leaving you because I don't love you. I'm leaving you because I love you too much to watch you destroy yourself. And because I love David too much to let him grow up thinking this is normal. When you're ready, when you've fought your internal war and won, come back. We'll be waiting. With eternal love, Sarah. I read the letter 3 times. I cried each time. She was right. She always was. I had to fight my internal war. It just took me 40 years to realize it. Farewell today. David is here, holding my hand. His children are in the hallway. Dad, he says, the first time he calls me that. Thank you for finally fighting, for finally coming back. I squeeze his hand, weak but firm. Sorry it took so long. I know. He smiles, tears in his eyes. But you made it in time. That's what matters. I close my eyes. For the first time in 60 years, I feel peace. Not complete forgiveness. I'll never have that. But peace. I see Billy and Sarah waiting, Marcus playing harmonica, and Sarah, beautiful as always, smiling. Welcome back, Tommy, she says. Finally back. And I finally come home. The end. This story is dedicated to all veterans who fought 2 wars, one abroad and one within themselves. May they find peace. May they find home.